Hey guys, what's up? Smith the Vinyl Freak coming back at you with another video. I hope everyone is doing well. And today we are going to be ranking every Led Zeppelin album, in my opinion, from worst to best. It's Led Zeppelin. Really don't need an introduction. In my opinion, hands down, the greatest hard rock band of all time. Many people will tell you they're the greatest band ever, period, which is a very valid opinion, in my opinion. They're incredible. They are one of the most influential bands ever, specifically in the realm of hard rock and metal. Basically any metal band that you love, whether it be Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Tool, System, Pantera, like any metal band you want to name, the origins really go back to Zeppelin, especially what they were doing in their early days. They are just one of the greatest, and yeah, let's get into it. 8 albums. I have got a thick stack of Zeppelin records right here. I have all 8 of their albums on vinyl. Before we get into that, a little bit of an introduction. I mean, Zeppelin formed in 1968, really a super group. Robert Plant on vocals, Jimmy Page, one of the greatest electric guitarists of all time, John Paul Jones, bassist, keyboardist, musical genius, and of course John Bonham, arguably the greatest rock drummer of all time. Incredible band. Let's get into it. I'm not including the 9th album, the compilation Coda, which just contains B-sides that were released after the death of John Bonham in 1980. It doesn't count as an official studio record, so I'm going to be looking at their 8 albums. And the thing with Zeppelin is they do not have a bad album. Every Zeppelin album is either good all the way up to some of the greatest records ever made. Yeah, all of these are solid. They do not have a bad album. One of the greatest discographies in all of music. And but there has to be a last place. And coming in at last place, it's going to be their last album, 1979's In Through the Outdoor. Still, like I said, a good record, just not a great record. This album, very John Paul Jones heavy. A lot of synths, a lot of keys, super poppy. Jimmy Page was struggling with heroin addiction at this time, unfortunately, so he was sort of on the outs. John Bonham was struggling with alcohol addiction, so the band was really falling apart at this time. However, they still were able to make a pretty good record given the circumstances. Opening track, In the Evening, is killer. Love that guitar solo from Jimmy Page. Carouselambra is my favorite song on here, which is this 10-minute synth rock epic with a really cool like droning guitar riff. All My Love is a classic, and the closing track, I'm Gonna Crawl, is one of my favorite, most underrated Zeppelin deep cuts. And of course, Fool in the Rain, which is a fan favorite. So definitely not like an essential Zeppelin record, just because it doesn't really have that hard rock sound that made them so revolutionary and amazing, but still some good songs on here, and definitely a record worth checking out. I would give this album a 7.5 out of 10. It's solid. And again, I mean, John Paul Jones, really the visionary behind this record, and everything he does is great. So that's my number 8, In Through the Outdoor. Coming in at number 7, I love this record. Every album from here on in I really love. This album is very underrated. I'm talking about 1976's Presence. Holy crap, Jimmy Page is such a freaking monster on this record. Some of the just most insane, just wonky, crazy guitar work all over this album that you'll hear from a mid-70s rock record. Achilles' Last Stand, the opening track, is one of Zeppelin's greatest epics, with, again, like a very like proto thrash metal guitar tone. it just sounds so 80s and thrashy, like very influential on that 80s thrash metal sound. But the down, 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 like it's just so heavy. An amazing song, one of the best Zeppelin songs ever. And again, if you're looking for an album that's a little bit funkier and groovier, this is definitely one you should check out. Track 2, For Your Life, has an amazing rhythm section with Bonham and Jones, just super funky playing. Some amazing vocal performances from Robert Plant. And given the time that this record was released, this is really the beginning of the end for Zeppelin. Robert Plant was in a car accident, so he was singing out of a wheelchair. And Jimmy Page was starting to struggle with his drug addiction, but once again, they pulled out a great record. I love this album, I really do. I think it is extremely underrated. And again, if you're looking for some really cool, bluesy, funky jams, check this album out. Other highlights for me, Nobody's Fault But Mine, which is a great blues cover. And the closing track, T for One, which has some amazing guitar work from Jimmy Page. Great record. I'll give this album an 8 out of 10. I definitely like it more than Into the Outdoor, but it's not quite as great as the next 6, which, now that we're in the top 6, all of these are classic. These albums are seen as sort of the golden age for Zeppelin, 1965 to 1975. Yeah, that 6-year period is really Zeppelin at their peak. And again, any album from these 6 could be a fan's number 1. It's really all dependent on the fan. For me, might be controversial. My number 6 is going to be Houses of the Holy. Look, I love this record. It's classic. If this was pretty much any other rock band, this would be a top 2 or 3 album for them, maybe even number 1. But given how strong Zeppelin's catalog is, you really have to pick and choose between what your favorite is, and it's very hard to put this at number 6 because it is a great record. A lot of just classic Zeppelin tracks on here. The song remains the same. The Rain Song, which is one of the prettiest Zeppelin ballads, very mystical. Over the Hills and Far Away, which is just so classic, such a great song. No Quarter, so good. Top 10 Zeppelin song of all time for me. John Paul Jones doing some really sinister synthesized keyboards on that song and just making it sound just so dark and yet like really funky and groovy. Really out there for Zeppelin. This is one of their more experimental albums, and it's very like mythical and fantastical, a lot like the album art. So if you really want to get lost in an album and you want to sort of hear Zeppelin doing something different, check this record out. And again, they have songs on here that are like kind of reggae influenced, Dire Maker, and even some funk with the crunge. So yeah, great album. Just they're albums that I like more. And I think that there are a couple tracks on here like Dancing Days and The Crunge that don't do as much for me. So that's what puts it at number 6. Still a classic. I'll give this record an 8.5 out of 10. And it is essential listening for anyone who loves 70s rock. Coming in at number 5, this also might be a little controversial, but I don't care. It's my list and it's my opinion. I have Zeppelin 2 coming in at number 5. This one is seen by many as a top 1 or 2 Zeppelin album, and I love it. It has some amazing tracks on it. A Whole Lot of Love, Heartbreaker, Ramble On, the 3 hits from this record that are all great, especially Ramble On, one of my favorite Zeppelin songs. But some of the deep cuts on here I really love as well. Living Loving Maid is super fun. Bring It On Home, the closing track, which has an amazing blues rock riff that just comes in out of nowhere. It's so good. And Moby Dick is a cool song with that crazy drum solo. And yeah, it's a really great record. I think the only thing that keeps this one down for me is the Lemon Song, which is one of my least favorite Zeppelin tracks. It's kind of annoying. It's like 6 minutes too, so it's pretty long. And What Is and What Never Should Be is another one for me that I'm not crazy about. But one more highlight off this record for me is Thank You, which is one of my favorite Zeppelin ballads. Such a beautiful song with some really pretty acoustic textures from Jimmy Page. And like all these records, it's produced so well. Jimmy Page was just such a good producer. And it's a classic. It's just, again, kind of like House of the Holy. There are a couple tracks I'm not as into. And when you're looking at a band as strong as Zeppelin, that does make a difference. So still, 8.5 out of 10 for me. A classic and an amazing record and super influential on, like I said, hard rock and heavy metal that would come after this. So Zeppelin 2, great record. That is my number 5. All right, so now we're in the top 4. This is really the bee's knees for me of the Zeppelin catalog. These 4 records, they would all be in my top 100 albums of all time. They're all phenomenal, and I just love all 4 of these records so much, even more than the ones I've already talked about, which is saying a lot. Coming in at number 4, this is tough, but I'm going to go Led Zeppelin 3. The folk rock record, the record where Zeppelin sort of left their hard rock roots and took a folkier direction. That's a really cool back cover, by the way. I don't know. I just think that's really cool. Yeah, this record is incredible. I mean, it opens with the Immigrant Song, which is one of the heaviest Zeppelin songs, but after that, it just goes into these folk rock tracks that are so invigorating and produced so well. Oh my gosh, the production on this album is so good. The songs sound incredible. This album also has like a turning wheel where you can like turn it and like different members of the band pop up. Like that was Jimmy Page and come on, I'm getting there. There's John Bonham coming in. So you can go through all the band members. It's kind of dumb, but kind of cool. Something I like about vinyl, you get to kind of experience the physical format of it. Highlights on here for me, Tangerine, one of my favorite Zeppelin songs, an amazing guitar solo, beautiful chorus. That's the Way, which is one of the best vocal performances from Robert Plant in their entire discography. Out on the Tiles, which is a freaking rager. Just a really good mix of hard rock and folk rock throughout this record. And of course, the Immigrant Song is incredible. So I would give this record a 9. It's one of my favorite albums of all time, and it's incredible. Led Zeppelin 3, that's my number 4. Coming in at number 3, I really love this record. It's just one of my personal favorites. I got the debut, Led Zeppelin 1. I prefer this to Zeppelin 2. They're sort of two sides of the same coin. They're both very heavy, both very influential on metal music that would come after. And yeah, I just like the songs on here more than the songs on Zeppelin 2. I just think that they're better. And the other thing I like about this album more is it's so much heavier and just raw. I know that a lot of people say 2 is their heaviest record. I don't hear that at all. I think 1 is a lot heavier. It's a lot bigger sounding. The songs are just bigger. They're beefier. They're just heavier. Good Times, Bad Times is one of my favorite Zeppelin songs ever. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You is incredible. Dazed and Confused, which is just one of the hardest Zeppelin songs ever. Your Time Is Gonna Come, which has some amazing orchestral arrangements with the organ. And yeah, this album is amazing. And every player on this record is just so good. Jimmy Page with just some of his heaviest and rawest guitar solos. John Bonham just has some incredible drumming. Robert Plant at his most raw and natural. And John Paul Jones is, pretty much great on every Zeppelin record. So, yeah, this record is just phenomenal. I also have a deluxe edition of this album on vinyl. Talk about a waste of money. But I don't care because I love this record so much, I'll have 2 copies of it. This album actually contains a live record from 1968, right when the band formed. It's a gatefold, pretty cool. It has like a pretty cool picture of the band right here. The light's kind of in the way, but yeah, just so good. Really cool live record. Just Zeppelin at their rawest and heaviest. Once again, one of my favorite albums of all time. If you're trying to get into hard rock, this is a great place to start. Another highlight for me on here, How Many More Times, which is just got one of the bluesiest Zeppelin riffs and some amazing guitar playing from Jimmy Page, amazing vocals, just everything. It's just great. I would give this album a 9. It's phenomenal. And that's my number 3, Zeppelin 1. All right, top 2. We're in the top 2. Both of these are just incredible and pretty set in stone, though, what my number 2 is. It is, of course, the most popular Zeppelin album, Led Zeppelin 4 from 1971. The untitled record that shook the world. This is basically just a greatest hits record. Every song on here you can pretty much hear on rock radio. It's just killer. This is the record with Black Dog. This is the record with Rock and Roll. This is the record with Stairway to Heaven. This is the record with Going to California. Like, it just, every single song is just a standout. It's incredible. And I think, Four Sticks is one song on here I'm not as big on, but I do love the guitar overdubbing on that song. It does sound really cool. But yeah, just some incredible songs on here, man. Obviously the ones that I named, but also Battle of Evermore, which is one of my favorite Zeppelin songs. So mystical and folky and just makes me feel like I'm in like the Lord of the Rings. It's just so unbelievable, so progressive. And Misty Mountain Hop is another highlight for me. Super just groovy, hard rocking blues track with some amazing vocals from Robert Plant. What do you think I saw? Just so ridiculous, but I love it. Yeah, Zeppelin 4, Untitled, Zoso, whatever you want to call it. The essential hard rock record. If you're trying to get into hard rock, this is the most essential hard rock album of all time. So I would give this record a very strong 9. It is, again, just one of my favorite albums of all time, and huge on, again, the hard rock and metal scene. I also have a deluxe version of this album. Got the inverted cover on the back. Just has some demos on it. Super cool. I mean, this record is so amazing. I'll always take an extra copy of it. Super cool gatefold here too with the band from 71. Really badass picture right there. And one of their shows, sold out stadium. This is them just at their mightiest. Zeppelin 4, that's my number 2. Incredible. All right. Coming in last, number 1, my favorite Zeppelin album of all time, my favorite hard rock album of all time. This record is a freaking masterpiece. I'm, of course, talking about the 1975 double record, Physical Graffiti. I should just stop the video right now because I could literally sit here for 2 hours talking about how amazing this record is. Double LP, 15 tracks. Pretty much every song on here is amazing. Every song just takes me to another world, and yet all of them fit within the sound of the album. You know, it's so cohesive, even though it is a double record. Just so many funky, groovy, heavy songs on here. I mean, you've got art rock, you've got proto metal, you've got hard rock, blues rock, art rock, some country rock. Like, you just have everything. One of the most essential rock albums ever made. I mean, highlights for me on here, I could go through pretty much every track. Custard Pie, In My Time of Dying, which is one of the most epic blues songs of all time. Just, I mean, if you're talking about like progressive metal, bands like Tool and Sleep and bands like that, I mean, really taking a lot of influence from that song. Kashmir, of course, is classic. In the Light, which is just one of the most progressive Zeppelin songs ever, with those bagpipes and the atmospheric production. 10 Years Gone, which is one of my favorite Zeppelin songs as well. Boogie with Stu, which is a super fun, kind of hokey blues country rock track. And the closing track, Sick Again, which has some really funky riffage. And yeah, this album is just amazing. The only song on here that I really don't love is Black Country Woman. If that song wasn't on here, it'd be a 10 out of 10, a perfect record. I would give this a very strong 9.5 out of 10. It's just incredible. And if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. It's a masterpiece. And yeah, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. So that is my ranking. Led Zeppelin. If you haven't listened to this band, like, what are you doing? You've been living under a rock. They are one of the GOATs. And I hope that you enjoyed this ranking, this video. Subscribe if you like, comment if you want, and I will see you in the next video, everyone. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.